Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavind Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Uh-oh, I lost my place. Is it 27? It's 27, okay. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this May 7th, 2025 in San Diego, the Holy Ekadashi Day, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Chapter 3, Karma Yoga, text 27 at the top of page 164. And this is one of the best known verses in this chapter. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Anyone online? Prakriti of material nature, kriyamanani being done, gunai by the modes, karmani activities, sarvashaha all kinds of, ahankara vimudha bewildered by false ego, atma the spirit soul, karta doer, aham I, iti thus manyate he thinks. Translation. Okay, so this there's a slight editing that's been done on this. Important. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doers of activity. Let's start again. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doers of activities, which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Purport. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by the false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature, under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For, due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this very important verse, someone in Krishna consciousness is aware that everything that he's doing, whether it's mental, intellectual activity, or physical activity, that this is all being done by the material energy under the control of Krishna. As he says in a later chapter, Maya jakshena pakati suyate sacharacharam hetananena konteya jagad viparivartate. By my supervision, directly. Now, how does that supervision take place? Well, largely by the Supersoul. Don't forget, he's not only in every heart, but he's also in every atom. So he's there, the intelligence behind all of the activity. So, Maya Jakshena, by my supervision, Maya Prakriti, again Prakriti, the material energy. Suyate Characharam, all the activities of Characharam means the moving and the non-moving living beings. Actually, more precisely would be the mobile and immobile. And I'll tell you the difference. Because oftentimes, suppose I'm sitting in meditation. Am I one of the moving living entities now? I'm not moving. You see? And the tree, which is obviously not moving, but it can be moved. We moved our banana tree, it was back here. And when we modeled, when Vijay was here, and he insisted, no, we don't have to kill the tree. So they replanted it up in Escondido. So it was moving. While it's on the truck or the van, whatever it is, it's moving. So moving, but mobile and immobile. Mobile means those who have the ability to move. You see the difference? And immobile means those who can't move on their own. So even though a tree is being carried from one place to be translated, it's still immobile in the greatest sense, in that it can't move on its own. That's what the Characharam means. So Maya Jakshena Pakati Suyate Characharam. So all these moving and non-moving beings, or mobile and immobile beings, and all their activities are going on under my supervision. Maya Jakshena Pakati Suyate Hetunanena Konteya Jagad Viparivartate. And this is the cause for the workings of everything in the universe. Jagad Viparivartate means all the movements going on. So understanding Krishna's background influence in everything that's going on, everything that we see during the day, is an important way of seeing Krishna. Just like in everything, or remembering him at all moments. In the 7th chapter, we get that famous list. Rasoham apsakonteya pabasmishasi suryo pranabhaksava vedishu. So he's going through all the senses there, beginning with the taste. I am the taste of water, I am the light and sun of the moon, I am the sound of Om, right? And I am the fragrance, so he's going through all the senses. So how is he all of those things? Because those are different energies. The senses by which we can perceive, the nose by which we can perceive the smells, they're both created by Krishna. The fragrant flowers created by Krishna, and our complicated body with all the senses are created. So he's the background of everything. And here it's saying, it doesn't mention Krishna directly, because of course this is Prakriti, but the material energy is working. What am I doing? We're just sitting there in the heart desiring. I'll give the example, I want to get this nice little cup of fresh water, right? Fresh. And so all of these things, I'm looking at it, I lift it. I don't have to think. Plan ahead. Now, arm, you do what I'm saying. I don't want to say it. And the arm is receiving, I don't think I will. In other words, that's our role, simply desiring. But the actual working of material energy is being done by the 3 modes of nature. Gunai karmani sarvasha. You see? So, ahankara vidmanhatma. But those who are bewildered or befooled by the false ego, the false sense of self. I am this body, you see? When this part of my body does this, it's I who am doing it. But really, we are just desiring. The Super Soul is checking, is he eligible that it will work? Okay. He hasn't done anything to paralyze that arm. So therefore, the arm will work and do it. And it all seems like it's going naturally. But actually, it's beyond our control. We're just sitting in the heart, desiring this, desiring that, identifying with the body and thinking it's me. So that's what he's talking about here. Vimudhatma means be fooled by ahankar. This false ego is the whole nub of the problem. False sense of self. We're thinking I'm this body. We're thinking I'm born in this place. And in all the lower species, we're not thinking very much, but we're definitely identifying with the body. I got this dog body, okay, I can bark. A cat body, I can have to run from the dogs. It's all built in. They call it instinct. So much instinct. That's the super soul. Just giving you do this to it. And it's amazing what goes on. The birds flying, in formation and doing these things, and the fish and all that stuff that they're doing. Prabhupada tells, I remember this from one of the talks I hear. The small fish, many of them in the ocean, they have the ability to sense where there's a predator a mile away. The vibrations in the ocean, there's like, who could imagine? And the flying of the geese, thousands of miles, one in the front, and all this stuff. It's amazing. That's all the working of nature under the guidance of the Supreme. So this nature is working seemingly automatically, but not really. It's under the guidance of Krishna, often through the demigods. They're also, there's a water god, there's an earth god, there's an air god, there's all these gods. So they're all deputies. So the whole thing is very complicated. The whole idea in Krishna consciousness comes from the false ego to the true ego, right? The false ego is that I'm who I am. I can do independent things, and I have this relationship and that, and I'm so many years old. I belong to all of these designations. So what is the verse? Sarvopari vinimuktam. He's describing what devotional service is, to be free of all these false designations. Tatpadatvena nirmalam, purified. And then Prabhupada mentions this, I think there's the name, yes, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchate. So Rishikena means with the senses, to serve Rishikesha, the master of the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchate. This is one of the definitions of bhakti. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the first chapter, we find that seminal verse, Anyabhilashada Shunyam. Many of you have heard this verse before. Anyabhilashada Shunyam Jnana Karma Jnanabratam Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. This Uttama Bhakti is the goal of our whole process. So this is the description of it in a nutshell. Completely devoid of any other desire. Anyam Bilashada Shunyam. Then he gives categories. Jnana, Karma, and Karmadi. Jnana, Karma, Jnanam. So jnana means speculation for liberation, desire for just liberation without any Krishna consciousness. And karma is a standard sense gratification, And then adi, whatever else you may come up with, that's a separate desire from Krishna. Anavratam, not covered, not impeded by these material desires. Because our whole Krishna consciousness is blocked by this. You need a tissue or something? Yeah, better take it. No, he can. He's mobile, not immobile yet. So, Jnana Karma Janavatam, Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. In other words, Shilanam means behavior or activity in this context. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. Always doing activities that are favorable to Krishna. You see? So you're doing it. Listening to Bhagavad Gita, is very favorable. We shouldn't think that this isn't service. This is the first and most important service, to hear the transcendental words of Krishna, words following Krishna. So this is pleasing to Krishna. So that's part of the Anukula Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Uttama. And when you're completely free of all other desires, and every breath you're doing something favorable for Krishna, then you're in pure devotee. That's the highest. Now, a verse right near that verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is this Sarvopadi Vinimuktam. Is to be free, Sarva Upadi. These upadis are these designations that we place on ourselves. Oh, now I'm an old man. You're not an old man, and the young man isn't a young man. We're both spirit souls. And we both have a way of serving Krishna. The old man may not be able to serve the same way the young man can, but still, whatever he does, he can do favorably for Krishna. So that's why, we found Srila Prabhupada in such an ecstatic mood, even though he was an old man externally, and he would sometimes explain, there's always something going on, like that. But still, he was blissful because he wasn't identifying that. He wasn't thinking, I am an old man. He was thinking, I now have an old body, and I can't do what I used to do. But I can still be connected to Krishna, I can still remember Krishna, and I can still glorify Krishna. And so you can remain enlivened even in your old age, whereas people who identify with the body, it's very hard to find someone who's really enlivened. Oh, I can't do that anymore, Let me go get some therapy so I can do that like I used to do. It's pathetic. It's tragic, really, a waste of human life. So this is an important verse. Everything is being done by material nature under the guidance of Krishna. And if we get in tune with Krishna's desires, then we can find, so many ways to employ this material nature, beginning with our own body in the service of the Lord. All right, any questions on this important verse? Tattva-vittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayo guna gunesha vartanta iti matva nasajjate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, as opposed to the person who's bewildered, you see, vimudhatma. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, one, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for a fruit of results. Purport. The knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in the material creation. He knows that his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattva-vit, for he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. So here Srila Prabhupada is referring to a verse in the second chapter, first canto. Tattva-vittu mahabaho, tattva-vittu mahabaho. Guna karma vibhaga. Now that's this verse that I'm just reading here. Vadanti tattva-vit, vadanti tattva-vadam tattvasya jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. Now that's the verse I'm looking for. So they say, who says that those who know the truth, tattva-vit, we have to find someone who's really in knowledge of this esoteric knowledge and take instruction. That's what it means to search out a real guru. And that word tattva-vit is also there in the famous verse 434, which is about the need to approach a guru. Let's see. Tad vidhi paripatena pariprashnena seveya upadekshanti tege jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So tattvadarshina means one who has seen the truth. It's the same as the tattva-vit. So we'll get to that verse in the next chapter. But that's the importance of being, of surrendering and taking knowledge from someone who is seeing the truth at every moment. That's important. So, one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work and devotion and work for fruit of results. So this is kind of a related to the latter part of this chapter, which we're going to get to. I don't think we'll get to it tonight. But this famous little disquisition on karma. This is beginning text 37, we're in text 28 now. But the idea is that we have to strengthen the intelligence This is what this whole idea is of studying the Shastra and accepting the instructions therein, is that the intelligence becomes strengthened to control the lower self, especially the mind and the senses, you see. In other words, this principle is there even on the material side. You know, your child grows up, and you really wonder, you're really very careful about who and what he's associating with. Now, you know, unlike in previous ages, you don't know what he's associating. He's got that little cell phone, right? And he can get on. You don't know where he's getting on. You know, so they have programs where you can watch what your children are doing. You know, but it's a disaster, because naturally you're going to get to some sense gratificatory thing or whatever, you know, and it's going to be harmful. So what your understanding at any given moment is determining who you think you are, what you're going to try to enjoy, the directions. So the intelligence is all important. I like to quote this verse, and you've probably heard it before. Prabhupada would quote it all the time. Kama dinam katina katita palita durni deshas. Tesham jata mayana karuna natrapano pashantihi. Utsvijaitan adayotapate sampratam labdha buddhis. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. That's from the end of this chapter. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. So you see, the key is the higher intelligence is awoken. And that comes from sadhu sangha, it comes from hearing, it comes from trying to follow and being enlightened from within as well. Because Krishna is also giving so much instruction from within. But we've been turning a deaf ear for eons. But now we're open to that. And as he says, as I think I mentioned last night, the fourth verse of the most important verses, or the essential 4 verses in the 10th chapter. Tesham evanakam partam ahamar jnanajam tamaha nashiyam yat babhavasto jnana dipena bhasvata. To them who are always serving me with love and devotion, who have understood that I'm the source of everything, out of compassion for them, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness of ignorance in their heart. And the previous verse is similar. Tesham satata yuktanam, those who are always linked to me and trying to link with me in devotional service, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So what can be more auspicious? We're associating with the saints from outside and getting enlivened, and Krishna seeing that, and from inside he's also guiding us. And this is why this movement is spread all over the world. It doesn't matter any country you are, if you can understand that the book's being translated in so many languages. Prabhupada pushed that so much. So, and then you come to the point, the key point of, yes, okay, let me try the chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And as soon as you become serious about that, all bets are off for your material entanglement. You can go back to Godhead. Because that, you're directly associating with Krishna through this holy name, and he's enlivening you from within, and he's inspiring you to associate from without with sadhus, and you're on your way. You see the power. And it's all the purification, the key is the awakening of and the strengthening of the intelligence. Because the intelligence is the key difference between us and the animals. If our intelligence becomes strong, then we can say no to the senses, no to the demands of the mind, and then employ them properly in the service of Krishna, so they also become purified. The mind becomes your best friend instead of your worst enemy, that famous statement in the 6th chapter. So it's all very scientific, and Krishna is explaining here in the 3rd chapter about activity. Okay, 29. Prakate guna sammudha sajjante guna karmasu tana kritstabado mandan kutsnavin navachaliyet. So now he's going back by the contrast. Those who are sammudha, who are bewildered by the modes of nature. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. And we'll see what this means. It means that you try to engage, in other words, someone's activity. They like to eat, so you can give them a nice prasadam. And someone who doesn't know anything about anything, I don't know anything about that Krishna philosophy, but they got such nice food. I come there every week, And I don't know what they're chanting there, but it has a nice tune, Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I got one of these small books. It was very interesting. Maybe I'll read it. Purport. Persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This is the upadhis. Did I skip over? No. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called manda, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinship, the land in which the body is obtained, as their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as nonviolence and similar materially benevolent work. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Interesting statement. So this, those who are book distribution, so many ways in which you can, you get skilled at interesting purpose, seeing someone who may be interested in engaging them, so that okay, I'll take a book, okay, I'll give you $5, whatever it is. And this is what are they taking in that book? They're taking the words of Srila Prabhupada, they're taking the words of Krishna, and it's the first step, oftentimes the first step in God realization, in becoming interested. So here, this bewildered by the modes of material, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material, they become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them. So this is the idea of not wasting your time trying to convince someone who has no receptivity at all, who can't, even suspend their disinterest or because it's just there's someone who's passing by who might actually be receptive. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you have to deal with, in the field of preaching, is that how to use your time most fruitfully. And the wonderful thing is that by the act of actually doing that and trying to do that, you become more potent because you're getting more inspired from within, you're getting more Krishna conscious, and Krishna is all attractive. So just by being in proximity, and chanting Hare Krishna and so forth, a certain number of people will be intrigued, curious, and that curiosity is the first step, and they're coming forward. And even these activities, I like to point out that Sariputta was a famous devotee who was very key in this movement. He was a key member of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, very incredibly skilled and advanced mathematician, devotee. And I heard that he was in upstate New York, and there was a flood, and the call was out that those who can help, come out and put the sandbags out so that the floods don't damage this and everything. So he participated in that. And it kind of opened something up in him. He hadn't done something like that in a while or whatever, And this idea of helping others, and being a force for good in the world, Pious activity, a significant pious activity. And shortly thereafter, he was in a bookstore and he saw the Bhagavad Gita. And somehow he picked that book up, Krishna gave him the inspiration to, and he must have heard about it before, whatever. Had his name on it, right? And that and Prabhupada's book is so interesting. Eventually, I remember when he came down to Brooklyn. I was there in the temple. That was the closest temple. And he wasn't ready to join, but he was going to spend a weekend or something. So they said, "Oh, you're good at mathematics? Okay, well, maybe you can help up in the accounting office." Here's somebody who was like a PhD in mathematics. So he did that. And eventually he became a very important member. He wrote several books. He was very instrumental in that book, the Forbidden Archaeology book with Juda Karma. And he wrote in such a way that this is like Juda Karma was writing a PhD thesis, and we had a devotee, Madhavendra Puri, who was also a scholar, and he was researching. He would go into the university and get books for the research. It was a whole program. They lived right here, next to the temple, when I came here. So that's how, and just to point out, Prabhupada is referring to it was a 29, right? Yes. That we did, yeah. I think Tatenu Kampang. No, Yasyatma Buddhi Kunapetri Datake. Prabhupada is referring to that verse in which someone is completely identifying with the body, So Krishna speaks this verse on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And there's a list of things there that describe the conditioned soul, Yasyatma Buddhi Kunapetri Datuke Swadi Kalatratishu Bhoma Ijidi Yat Tirtha Buddhi Salane Nakarya Janesha Bhigesha Seva Gokara. Gokara means a cow or an ass, a jackass. But it can also mean the donkey who brings the food for the cow. Because after all, we don't want to malign the cows, right? So it's just anyway. So what he's saying there, this verse is quoted all the time. Yasyatma Buddhi. So one thing after another. Yasyatma Buddhi Kunape Tridatuke. To have the intelligence, the mentality, that I, the Atma, the self, am this body, Kunape, which is like a bag of three dhatus, mucus, bile, and air. Not very attractive, That's pretty much inside. That's the Ayurvedic, It's just a bag, and that's what I am. Kunape, Swadi, and this is having the mentality that this is mine. Swadi Kalatradishu, the wife and the family, etc. That's mine. This is me, mine. Kalatrad, so me and mine. Kalatra issue, and then Boma Ijidi. And then the next step is to think that the land one is born in is worshipable. In other words, nationalism. Identifying with that. That's a big thing. And then if you happen to go to a holy place, you think, well, okay, I'll take a bath there, and I will have visited there, and that's all I need to do. I don't have to search out any learned person there to hear, you see. It's just like a ritual. Swadikalatai Bomi Yatirtha Buddhi. To think that a tirtha is just a place you go and you take a bath, maybe you shave your head and you take a bath there and you see the idols and you go home. Not to hear, not to really think that life can be, importantly changed there. Devotees who go to Vrindavan, we want to hear the talks when you go on Parakram, this place, that place, the leading devotees, No. So all of that, he says, someone who has all these qualities is like an ass or a cow. This is not good. So that's the problem. And, we're taught, just one final verse on this theme, is that there's, in the 11th canto at the beginning, there's these wonderful teachings from the 9 Yogendras. The 9 Yogendras are these 9 sons of Lord Rishabhdev, who when he took sannyas, they took sannyas. They also began wandering and teaching, very learned. And of course, the main son, Bard, he became the king, and then he also renounced, even as a young man, that went and he got attracted to deer and that whole thing, So anyway, these 9 Yogendras, they have their place in the Bhagavatam where they're giving lessons. This is King Nimi, I think it is. And so one of them, it was like, what was he saying? Okay, I've lost the train now. I'm sorry. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, the Yogendras preaching. And they have something relative to this whole idea of The attachment. Oh yes, okay. The different levels of devotees. That was one of the questions. How do I recognize the Mahabhagavat in the next level? So the medium devotee we're meant to try to come to that platform. And here's the characterization. I hope I can remember this verse. Yeah, Ishvaretad adineshu badisheshu dvisatcha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyama bhakta. So Ishvaretad adineshu badisheshu dvisatcha. Okay. So to the Lord, we try to develop prema, love for Krishna. Ishvare, and to those who are related to the Lord's devotees. Bali Sheshu Dusachita. Bali Sheshu, we try to show mercy to them by giving them Krishna consciousness. So prema for the Lord and his things related to the Lord, like devotees. And Bali Sheshu, to the Adineshu we develop maitra, friendship with the devotees, reverence for the Lord. Bali Sheshu, for the innocent people, we show kripa or compassion by trying to give them Krishna consciousness. For the other devotees, friendship, you see. And kripa upeksha, and Bali dvishatsu, to the envious demons, we avoid them. That's the Madhyama Adhikari. So that's related here. If someone is completely attached and they're totally into Maya and they're not interested, or they become angry, if you approach them, back off. Don't waste time and don't. That's the idea. Okay, we have time for one or two more. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyad yatma chetasa nirashir nimamo bhutva yudyatsva vigatadvaraha. This is one of the first verses I memorized, and when we read the purport, you'll see why. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Purport. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. So this, I think, I'm sorry, I always look at things editorially. It's just like a reflex, And I think this is not exactly what Prabhupada means here. When you say independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, that implies that the Supreme Lord is cooperating with you. But what he means is of the cooperation with the Supreme Lord, isn't it? If you cooperate with someone, it means that whatever you want, I'll cooperate with you, right? That's what he's talking about. So that of has to be a with. I'm going to change it. Hopefully it'll be good without any flack. All right. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation with the Supreme Lord. I think that can come out. Independent of cooperation with the Supreme Lord. Because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord, he had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. Nirashi means one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. This word asha, is very common. In the Tulsi song we sing similar times we come asha. Asha means your aspirations, what you're really aspiring for. And here nirashi means without your own aspirations. Nirashya means one has to act without and should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mayi, or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vigata dvara, or without feverish mentality, or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness, as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Okay, so this verse clearly ain't the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. It's very, very memorable. Text 31. Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha shraddhavanto anasuyanto muchyante te pikarma bihi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully, without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. But because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So this is the faith, you see? This is an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions, even though unable to execute such orders, still becomes liberated eventually from the bondage of the law of karma. So getting that faith, how does that faith develop? By sadhu sangha. This is what the basic principle of this movement. The Krishna consciousness society, right? It's a society, association. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata tad joshanad ashu apavargavartmani shraddha ratir bhakta anukramishati. So in the association of devotees, and the word prasanga is used, not just sangha. Prasanga means meaningful, intense devotion, association. Mind is not wandering, it's like going through a ritual. So that satam prasanga, with the satam, with the sadhus. And what mama virya samvido, you'll hear talks of my wonderful activities and powers. Bhavanti, which are rit karna rasayana, which are nectar for the heart and for the ear. Karna, rit karna rasayana kata, the kata that talks. Tadjo, and then, so this is a process of yoga. He said, next phrase, this is the easiest process of yoga. Tadjoshanad, employing this process, ashu, quickly, apavarga vartmani, which is on the path of liberation. Apavarga means free from the things that begin with the different letters of the pavargas. Pa, ba, ba, and ma. Pa is parishrama, hard labor. And so much so that you get palena, foam at the mouth. You're always working hard, struggle for existence. So, and then the next one is, the B stands for bondage, bandha, but also vyartata, frustration, you see. And then comes the big one, bhaya, fear, fearfulness. As time goes on, then you can't pay your bills, you get fired, you get deported, a million different things happen. So bhaya is also there. And then finally, M, what do you think M stands for? Mrityu, death. So this is Pavarga. This is the ground of birth and death. It's described. So Apavarga means freedom from all of this by getting liberation. And this is the path, Apavarga Bhartmani, by association with devotees, meaningful discussion, hearing, you see, prasangam. So that's the process by which we can execute faithfully, Krishna's teachings and strengthen the intelligence so that we become determined to practice Krishna consciousness more and more. And in this way, weaken our attachments to the material world and strengthen our attachments to Krishna and his devotees. That's the thing. All right, there's one more because it's very short purport, then we'll have a little poem. Ye tvedara visuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnaniva mudangshtan vidhi nashtana chetasaha. No mincing of words here in the Bhagavad Gita. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Purport. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the Personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. After many births, maybe there's some hope, but that's so. This very sobering. Okay, we have a little time for some poems. So I did some poems already. So a few more from that collection. And this is a little summary description of the Govardhan Leela. Why not? Here we are in the Govardhan. When Krishna stopped King Indra's sacrifice, that monarch of the heavens threw a fit. Those cowards took that foolish boy's advice. Such insolence I never shall permit. So Indra sent the clouds of devastation to pour down catastrophic hail and rain with lightning, thunder, winds without cessation. The cowherds called to Krishna in their pain to show his cowherd friends his boundless love and crush King Indra's pride for his own good. Shri Krishna lifted Govardhan above and saved his friends while neath the hill they stood. Okay, so then a little Damodar Leela. A little summary of that. The painting, right? Here it is. There's a flaw. It's a little frieze. There's something missing there. The mortar. She's binding him up, but not binding him to anything. Anyway, it's a mistake. But the mood is there. Okay. At last Yashoda caught her naughty child, who'd smashed a pot of yogurt in a peak. You know what a peak is? An annoyance that she had taken him away from the breast. At last Yashoda caught her naughty child, who'd smashed a pot of yogurt in a peak. Oh yes. That's a pot of yogurt in a peak. Though seemingly annoyed, she felt beguiled by little Krishna's loving charm unique. O imp, I've caught you now, but do not fear.